and welcome. Here we are at our pop-up studio at the STEP conference. The second day just starting really nicely, except the flies. But this is the perk of being outside and in this wonderful weather and in this wonderful conference here in Dubai. We have a Hasan Haider from Plus VC. Good morning, Hasan.
Good morning.
How was STEP conference for you yesterday and how it is this morning?
STEP conference is great. It's a really nice event. I love how it's organized. I love the different types of people that we meet here. It's always a great event to come to every year.
Okay, and what do you do here? Do you search for new startups? Do you talk with startups? Do you advise startups? Do you speak on the stage, or what is the
All of the above, I guess. Typically what we're doing here is we're talking to startups either that we've already spoken to, we meet them in person, or sourcing new startups, or a lot of our time, with our existing portfolio and companies, introducing them to other investors and people across sort of the event. And so that actually works pretty well for us. And yeah, I spoke yesterday, I'm speaking today. And
it's amazing. It's amazing for ecosystem to meet. So talking about the ecosystem and talking about the ecosystem in the MENA region or the Middle East, I don't want to say the word veteran, but you are there for more than a decade.
Yeah.
How it was more than a decade ago?
There was no ecosystem. So I've been doing this for 13 years now. And when we first got started, the Maktub acquisition by Yahoo had just taken place, which I'm sure most of these people don't remember.
2013?
2010, actually.
10, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I lost count.
And so I'm sure most of the people in the ecosystem now don't even remember that as an exit.
Even Yahoo, not to mention.
But that was, I think, a pivotal point in the current evolution of our ecosystem. I think, that acquisition reignited a lot of people's passion for venture capital, showed that there was potential to exit at something with more than $100 million in the region, and that international interest was there. And so we saw Jordan start to emerge as an ecosystem then with Oasis 500. A year or two later, you started to see Flat 6 Labs out of Egypt just got started. Started to see some angel investment groups start. And so that I think you can trace everything that's happening here to that sort of pivotal moment
of Yahoo,
where most people don't even remember anymore.
But talking about pivotal moments, except you live in 500 startups, what was the pivotal moment for the region's ecosystem?
I think there's been a couple of moments. Like the ecosystem has been growing, but I think ecosystems, they step up. It's not like it's not like a linear growth or anything. It's like one year it's like we were having $200 million in investments and a couple of startups, and then the next year paying $500 million, and the year after that was $1 billion, and then $2 billion, and then so there's step ups every year in sort of the ecosystem. I think a couple of the steps that we saw were, of course, the Maktub acquisition by Yahoo was one. And then we had Amazon acquiring Souq was another one. And then Talabat being acquired by Delivery Hero, Carriage being acquired by Delivery Hero. So there's a lot of activity happening in Kuwait that no one really was paying too much attention to. And then Uber Careem acquisition was another sort of watershed moment. And then recently we saw, if you asked me 10 years ago, is like any startup's going to IPO, I'd be like, no. Like, what are you talking about? There was no ecosystem for that. But then Jahez IPO'd on the Namu stock market, and that was a really great exit for a lot of people. And then that became like a watershed moment recently for, hey, listen, an exit through IPO is actually a viable method for startups. And so there's been a lot.
Sort of like a nurturing inspiration for them. And so on. And you're based in the Middle East.
Yeah.
That's the best thing to say.
Yeah.
But you're based in Bahrain.
Yeah, myself and a number of the team are based in Bahrain.
How it is ecosystem in Bahrain?
Bahrain's an interesting ecosystem. From our previous fund that we were managing, it actually is the best performing ecosystem in terms of returns.
Really?
Yeah, we invested in...
Carefully invest.
We invested in 10 startups in that market. Two of them became 40x returns. So,
oh my God.
And one of them is at about 10x. So I think, it's not, I can't really complain about that. But it's one of those markets where you got to pay attention to. You've got to be there on the ground. You've got to be finding founders really early. And one of the things that we try to emphasize in smaller markets is like, hey, listen, great. This is a petri dish. You're just getting started, but within year one, you need to be in a bigger market. And so founders that have that sort of mindset towards expansion within a very short period of time, they do well out of these smaller markets. The ones that are just sort of trapped is like, I'm going to dominate my market and then go out, they're never able to go out because there's bigger players that end up launching in all the bigger markets as well.
So that would be the right path for them.
Yeah, I think there's you see smaller markets like Kuwait and Bahrain and Oman and Qatar where it's really a path of, hey, we tested it, we proved it in our market, and now we're going to immediately expand into the bigger markets like Saudi, like Egypt, like wherever, like somewhere else. And then you have a lot of startups from bigger markets like Egypt, Saudi, UAE, where they try to dominate their local market, and then maybe 3 years down the line start exploring other markets as well.
Okay, but when we talk about your VC plus VC,
Yes.
what is the plus that you are giving the startups and the community?
I mean, there's a lot of things that we try to support our startups with, but at the end of the day, we're very strong believers in the fact that our role is to identify talent and support them as much as possible. We're not there to interfere. We're not there to get super involved and run the company for them or anything like that. We're there as a sounding board. We're there if they need assistance with different areas. I've done more than 200 investments over the past few years, so I've seen a lot. I've reviewed tens of thousands of deals, so there's a little bit up here that I can guide startups with.
And what is the number one question that you get from startups in the region when you start working with them?
There's a bunch. So like we know what we need to help startups with, and the first one is always fundraising. Startups always are fundraising. They're like make introductions. Thankfully, we've been in the ecosystem long enough. We know a lot of the players. We can at least get a call in or an introduction to most of the VCs in the region, and they'll pay attention to the startups that we're referring because they know we wouldn't refer like a crap one to them. So that's always the number one question is fundraising. Number two always becomes about structuring.
Operations,
hiring, talent, like all of that sort of stuff is like, hey, we're stuck, there's this issue, there's that issue, and we try to help as much as possible. And then a third is like, helping with PR early on, communications early on. There's someone on our team that's dedicated that helps on that front. So it's mostly just, we have a lot up here, and so you as a startup, ask me what you need to ask, and I'll help however I can.
Okay, and that are the steps. That is the talk about Middle East. That is the talk about your VCs, and let's talk about startups. What we just saw the graphic that I showed you about fintech being the leading source of investment, source of business here.
Yeah.
What is your thing that your VC is investing in?
We're pretty agnostic. We'll invest in anything as long as there's some technology that helps the company scale. And I think that helps us not follow trends, but be there before trends happen. So we were investing in fintech deals in 2017 before fintech was even a thing.
Because before fintech was fintech.
Yeah, before fintech there was even a word, right? And it's because we backed really good founders that could sort of see where the gaps were and what they wanted to solve and what they wanted to do. So our thesis always goes back to we need to be backing great founders that have sort of this bias towards execution and are getting things done. Like that's really the whole thing. And then everything else is like, okay, to support that. Like, have they launched their product? Great, excellent. Have they got some customers and users? Do they know how they've gotten those customers and users? Do they know how to get more of them? Things like that. It's very basic at the stage that we're operating in. But we're really looking at finding teams that we will back, because by the time a startup, we've invested in 200 deals. We know that the ones that are successful look nothing like they were when we were initially investing in them. They've pivoted, they've changed business models, they've expanded, they've done a lot of other things, and they're not really the same business. But the thing that has driven them there is the founders that we backed. And so I try not to be like, oh, these are the sectors that we think are going to be great in the future, because I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I have no clue. If I did, I'd be much richer. But what I do know is if you back someone that's great and has this sort of like execution mindset is going to get something done, then chances are things are going to go pretty well. So that's sort of it. So like right now we're investing in deals that people are ignoring, but maybe 2 years down the line when these guys have grown, they'll be the next hot thing, and we've seen that over and over again.
Can you tell us an example of that kind of startup that is maybe at this time being ignored? Like, oh, is there anything? Or you don't want to reveal, maybe?
No, I mean we've invested in so many deals. From our previous fund, we invested in like Flowered. At the time, people were like, "Oh, online flower and gift delivery. How big is the market gonna be?" And now they're amongst the winners in our portfolio. Like they're doing really well.
Their delivery, maybe not flowers, but their delivery.
They're doing so well, right? And then there's other ones like Callow where it's a meal subscription service, right? It's for you to lose weight and all these sort of things. And he started
sending some messages, maybe.
Me too. So it was really good, and the founder is phenomenal. So I really backed that founder. I've been tracking him for a while, and then he just executed so well, beyond my wildest expectations.
When you say executed so well, what is that makes that founder the perfect founder, as you said? Like what is it being knowledgeable about the industry he's in, or knowledgeable about operations, or knowledgeable about IT? What is the distinction?
It depends, but it's not really about knowledge. It's about like speed of execution and getting things done, right? Because there's founders that we speak to, and then a year later we speak to them. They're like, they're kind of still in the same position. And I was like, what's going on? Oh, we couldn't raise any money. I was like, so like, you should still be doing something. And there's other founders that have beautiful pitch decks and presentations, but then when you're like, okay, so have you built anything? Are you doing anything? They're like, no, we'll wait till we get funding and then we'll be full time. So like, we don't invest in that. We want people that are like, whether you invest in me or not, I believe in this thing and I'm executing with or without you. It'll be slower without you, but with you it'll be faster. Like
exactly.
That's what we were looking
when
for.
When you mentioned pitch decks, I spoke with a VC and they said, okay, Ivan, please, no design, white background, black letters, Times Roman, whatever, like I just want to see what's the point of what you're doing, not the beautiful design. And this is as you said, the efficiency of the execution, as it. And talking about the market, just before the cameras turned on, we were discussing about this bear market, or call it however, and you said, oh no, this is the perfect time. Why this time is a perfect time?
This is honestly the best time to be investing. Valuations are lower, so investors are getting in at pretty good valuations compared to what was happening in 21 and 22. This vintage, I think, late 22, 23 vintage venture capital funds are probably going to outperform because, our industry, our funds are long-term periods, right? We're investing over the first 5 years and harvesting over another 5 years. So we see a full economic cycle. So if we're investing at the bottom of that economic cycle, our chances of, when things improve and our deal's doing pretty well are much higher. So.
Everybody's happy. So you have to break the record of 40x exit.
I have a 61 as well. So.
Oh, my God.
So I got to break that. I got to get to 100 somewhere.
I would really like to pick your brain more and learn more from you. And thank you very much for this conversation. Please, anytime you're in Dubai, let me know. And I would like to have a full interview of half an hour or more talking about the ecosystem. And who knows, next time you're here, what things will happen.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being in the Change Officer podcast. And of course, share, like, subscribe. And if you want to learn more about the different things that are changing our world, tune in, share, like, subscribe to our podcast, The Change Officer, from Step Conference.